Hello everybody and welcome to my YouTube video where I will illustrate that sexual preference, such as heterosexuality or homosexuality or bisexuality. I will illustrate that sexual preference is in fact a choice, not an innate characteristic you can't control like many people say. And with this argument, I'm not trying to debate the morality of any kind of sexual preference. I think that's a different discussion. I'm just trying to show that, no, it is a choice. Human beings, work a certain way, and that's just how it is. Now, if you think about what a sexual preference really is, it is a person's willingness to pursue other people in a romantic or, objectifying sexual manner. Either way, it doesn't matter in New York. They're the same thing. It's a person's willingness to pursue romance or objectifying sexual gratification with people of a certain gender relative to their gender. That's what it is. That is sexual preference. In a nutshell, that's the only way it can possibly be defined. And at the end, and there's many, many reasons why a person might choose to pursue a certain gender for romance or for their selfish, objectifying gratification, which is the same thing in New York City. Many, many reasons, not just the narrow pornographic reasons that most people use to define sexual orientation. Sexual orientation, sexual preference, right? And this is my big issue. This is my big issue, right? At the end of the day, just because male bodies or female bodies arouse you in whatever context, just because that's the case, that doesn't mean you're gay or straight. You're not gay because you're turned on by a quote-unquote guy and you're a guy, or vice versa, for a woman, and you're not straight just because you are turned on by the opposite gender. It doesn't work that way. Are human beings reduced fundamentally to just quote-unquote what turns them on, which is a very fleeting, abstract thing? I mean, a lot of people aren't even turned on by other people in some sense. They're turned on by ideas, by situations, like by feelings of being protected. Like, if you are aroused by the feeling of being protected, does that make you sexually orientated towards being protected? No, it's it's part of a complex mosaic of human psychology, right? So the argument that sexual orientation is based on arousal, is based on all these, fleeting, complicated, abstract internal characteristics is pretty absurd. It's like looking at a small slice of what it means to be a person, and not a particularly meaningful slice at that, because at the end of the day, we can have whatever thoughts or feelings we want, but people make choices contrary to their thoughts and feelings all the time. It's called being an adult. So from that perspective, I really, really don't like this idea that somehow, the body shapes, essentially body shapes, that somehow the body shapes are physical characteristics that a person jerks off to if they're a man, or whatever, women, do whatever they do. The idea that is what defines a sexual orientation is completely ridiculous, completely narrow way of looking at a human being. So I thoroughly deny that idea, and I instead subscribe to this idea that a person makes their decisions of sexual preference holistically, based on, of course, their free will, and also based on the choices and external factors presented to them. Because at the end of the day, this is the truth of how it works in the modern day. Most people are sexually satisfied on some level via their fantasies. Like, they don't have to live it. They don't have to live it, right? So the choice of who you pursue from a partner perspective, or even who you prefer, who you pursue from a partner perspective, doesn't have to be a reliving of your fantasy. It just has to be good enough to make you happy, essentially, to make you happy, right? And so you're gay on some level if Well, actually, I mean, but a lot of people make choices that don't make them happy. I was about to say you're gay if the same gender in a romantic context makes you happy, and you're straight vice versa. But people don't even prefer what makes them happy all the time, so that's not even a fair statement. At the end of the day, you're gay if you pursue women, and you're a woman, or man if you're a man, and you're straight if you pursue the opposite gender, and all that other stuff. And that's just how it is. Because you can't just take the inner mind and extrapolate it to the whole human being. That's ridiculous. And and there's a lot of reasons why a person would choose to pursue a gay or straight relationship. You know, money is a big part. I'd say money is a huge part of being married. Money and resources. I mean, you know, romance. You know, like yeah, that's a huge part of it. Like whether you want a family, stability. Um, just whose company you enjoy in a personality sense, not in a physical sexual sense. Gender roles. Like a lot of men theoretically would love to date a woman, but they don't want to be in a traditional male role, or they don't want to be a breadwinner, or they don't want to have to, you know, do all the work in courtship, having to, you know, ask people out, which in, you know, really just means do all the annoying messaging and dating apps, because that's how dating works. You know, I don't know, this whole concept of meeting people in person is kind of silly. I've never seen it. But yeah, so that's kind of like, you know, so a lot, someone who is theoretically attracted to women physically in their heads might be like, look, you know, dating women requires me to send annoying messages on these apps, and it really pisses me off. I find it boring. It's like pulling teeth. And like, you know, when I meet with all these women, then like I'm expected to be all like, you know, assertive, and that's just not who I am. So screw that. I'm gonna be gay, even though I don't think men are as pretty. I'll make it work, right? That's how a lot of people think, and I'm sure people, you know, many people who are more attracted to the same gender in a different time were like, you know, whatever. It's, you know, I want to live a life with I want to live a life with the person of the opposite gender and have a family or whatever, and you know, not rock the boat in the context of my society, and that's fine. And I think, like, you know, and I'm sure those were more the rule than the exception in the past. We just never heard of it because they wouldn't go around blabbing about it. And I'm not trying to say that there's anything wrong with any of this, right? I'm not trying to make any judgments. I'm just trying to say that this idea that sexual preference is innate is just so, is just dehumanizing. It's just not how people are.